Have you ever been sanding for hours without the end in sight and thought there's got to be an easier way? So the Festool Arrow 150 is an absolutely incredible product that I've been using over the past year almost every day. And even though it has a whopping price tag of almost 1,000 Canadian dollars, it has completely changed my outlook on the Festool brand. And so in this video, we'll dive into what's good about it, what's not so good, and whether it's worth the price. And I'm just going to give you an upfront conclusion that this tool is worth it. But the question is it actually worth it for you? Let's find out. I just finished plowing through the entire interior of a large log home with this thing, and I want to share what my experience with it is. Back when I first started working on this log home, I started with a tiny little 4-inch DeWalt sander, and I very quickly realized that I needed a better tool to get this job done as fast as possible without destroying my body on the way to the finish line. And what made me consider this sander was the fact that it was marketed as a 3-in-1 sander, and 3-in-1 being the eccentric motion, the normal mode, and the ability to also polish things. The next point that made me consider this tool is the dust extraction. That was a huge deal. And obviously the aggressiveness with which it eats through material. Additionally, I was curious about the experience of a Festool. Since there is so much great reputation out there, I wanted to test it on my own skin. And even though I do have a positive experience, I do have a little negative story to tell as well. However, the only thing that was holding me back was that whopping price tag. So, was it worth it? So this thing has some serious power, a 720 watt motor that cranks out 6,800 orbits per minute. It's fast, it's fairly smooth, it gets the job done. And it's about twice as aggressive as a regular random orbit sander. What left me really impressed is the dust collection. You know, I expected a lot, but I didn't expect that much. I've had to rent out the Bosch competitor for this job, and on the same vacuum cleaner, there was a substantial difference with how much dust was gathering around you and on the floor around the area that I was sanding at, and also inside of my nose, because when using both those sanders, I didn't actually end up using a face mask. But you can get away with it with a Festool, and I don't know whether with the Bosch you could do without a face mask. What the dust collection is also great at is it extends the longevity of the tool, because all of the dust gets sucked into the vacuum instead of sticking around those bearings, those moving parts inside of your tool. And it helps with the longevity of the tool, it helps with the longevity of the sandpaper. And in fact, Festool's disposables, the sandpaper, while more expensive than generic brand alternatives, has a tendency to last longer. What I also love about this is the fact that you can get different softnesses of this sanding pad, from soft to medium to hard. And what it allows you to do is adjust the tool to your needs. Initially, I started with a medium hardness, and when that wore out throughout the project, I decided to research and find the best softness to sand some drywall mud actually. And I went for the soft. And what I found is that for the curvature of the logs, it was also the best choice possible. And that brings me on to the Festool system itself. Kind of like Apple in the tech world, the Festool, it kind of sucks you in. Once you start, it's hard to stop. You know, I started with this thing, but then I got the baseline vacuum cleaner, and then I realized that this tool is actually too bulky to go into where the two pieces of wood meet. And so I ended up getting a Delta sander as well. And it's a double-edged sword, because you end up having to go and buy stuff from the first system, but also If you're a professional and you don't want to waste time and you want to get the job done as fast as possible and as a result save time, it is the system to lean into. Because just to give you another example, when I reached out for somebody to help me with this job, I realized that I only have one good vacuum cleaner. And then I went onto the Festool website, and then I found out that you can get this Y-shaped doubler where you can connect two pieces of vacuum hose, you can connect two tools, and you can work in tandem. And then just a step back, I realized that this tool was still not quick enough to take off the amount of material that I needed to take off, sometimes up to 1/4 of an inch of wood to take away the UV from the 30 years of sunshine. And so I ended up doing the first pass with a cordless planer and then following along with the Festool afterwards. And then that planer would create a lot of sawdust particles, and the vacuum cleaner couldn't keep up with the amount of sawdust. Sometimes I'd get 120 liters of sawdust in one day. And I found this vacuum bag that opens up where you can fill it up and very quickly empty it into a garbage bag. So that's just one of many, many examples of how this brand has gone to extreme measures to think of anything and everything that can happen in the job site or in your workshop and try to provide a solution for those scenarios. But anyway, I'm getting off track there. What was the sanding experience like? This sander is aggressive, yet it doesn't leave swirls. It has a dual mode where you can go into rough eccentric motion, where the sander's motion is quite aggressive, but then you can switch down to a random orbit action where it's more detailed. But I haven't had a lot of success in the detail mode. Paradoxically, I find that the detail mode gets more swirls than the eccentric, more aggressive mode. I've already talked about the dust collection. It's fantastic. And you really notice it when sanding drywall mud. I know it's probably not made for sanding drywall, but I've used it several times because of the dust extraction. I've had to learn how to use this tool on drywall because you can very quickly gouge it, but that's where I use it in detail mode actually, on drywall. And so while most sanders choke on sawdust, this one doesn't have any problems whatsoever. One thing you might be worried about is the fatigue. It's pretty damn heavy, like it's 3 kilograms, and you know, it's quite aggressive. And I would go on several days in a row, 8 hours a day, and I have to admit, I would get sore from, you know, holding it up, sanding underneath logs, or you know, from the vibrations themselves. I found that wearing a pair of gloves helped, but I would, at the end of the day, I'd still feel my hands tingling a little bit. But you know, I would spend a full day sanding, so that's kind of to be expected. So with Festool's online religion, you know, its reputation online, I feel suspicious when people recommend this tool, because how good can it be? And so let's think about when it's worth it and when it's an overkill. However, let me just pause there and tell you the story of what happened to me when I had a problem with this thing. I didn't send it back to service, even though Festool is renowned for their quality of repair service. I just ordered this part because it was my fault that this part broke. This part that connects to the vacuum. And so I ordered a spare part, which has a total cost of, I think, $20, $15, $20. I ordered this spare part in October, and it just arrived at the start of February. And I don't know who's at fault here. I don't know if it's Festool Canada, if it's my local store. I didn't take part in the supply chain. However, there is no doubt that had I needed this sander in December and January, I would have been maybe not without a tool, but without the actual dust collection. And I ordered this part from a certified Festool dealer here in town. I wanted to be clear about everything. It's worth it when you're a pro and you're trying to save time. When you want a reliable tool. You want something that gets the job done as fast as possible. So if you're a finished carpenter, great tool. If you're a painter, great tool. If you need to polish things, it's also a great tool. I've polished my car with it even. If you need to strip down metal, strip down wood, if you have large surface areas, it's worth it. If you need a long-lasting tool and you know you have a lot of work to do, it's a great tool. However, I think that the place where it's an overkill is when you're not going to be sanding a lot, where you only need to sand something every now and again. I would go for the Bosch or some other alternative. If you don't have the budget, go for the Bosch and wear a face mask. Yes, it's not as good, but it's 80% there, I think. So if you need a sander that saves you time and eats through material, keeps dust to a minimum and lasts years, this might be your guy. But if you're building furniture or you're doing some smaller projects, I would maybe look elsewhere. By the way, I just started a newsletter with a bunch of cool things I send to makers every week, and it's super short. So if you're interested in signing up, the link is down below. Click over here to watch another of my videos, and thank you for watching. See you next time.